Welcome to Swish and Flick, an all Potter podcast.
Swish and flick. Everyone? Swish and flick.
Hello and welcome to episode 133 of Swish and Flick. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Megan.
I'm Katie.
I guess I'm still Sarah.
And this episode is sponsored by Michaela Papura. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, here we are. Once again, we're going to split a chapter. So, today we will be discussing the first half of Chapter 9 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, The Woes of Mrs. Weasley. So, make sure that you've read roughly half the chapter and you're ready to trapeze your way into the details. Before we begin, let's go to Megan for the weekly prophet. And I read that verb wrong. It's straight. But both
You could have just used it for the next one.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Okay, so we have a lot to talk about in the weekly prophet, so I'm going to try and keep each thing short. But the first thing I wanted to tell everybody about is that the Warner Brothers Studio Tour released a new, what is it? Like a new overlay for Leavesden, and they are bringing the Slytherin Common Room this spring to the studio tour, and I am so sad that I can't see it. Because it's like, literally, it's going to be the Slytherin Common Room set. And then also, you will be able to see the rise and fall of the Malfoy family and Lord Voldemort through their costume design. So it's going to be Friday, April 3rd to Sunday, September 6th.
Let's just go. What's the problem?
Like, honestly, I really want to, but we have so much travel this summer. That's ridiculous. Potter fans can get up close to a 25-foot high section of the furnished set and authentic film props. The common room for House Slytherin was designed to be the stark opposite of the warm colors of Gryffindor, with its cool hues of green and silver. Inside the set, which was made to look like a dungeon carved from solid rock, guests will also get to see the hand-designed wall tapestries. Visitors will enter through the Great Hall, which will have Slytherin green and silver banners hanging from the enchanted ceiling to reflect when they almost won the House Cup during the final scenes of Philosopher's Stone.
You didn't.
Yeah, because Harry is a teacher's pet. But at the teacher's table, Gryffindor banners will be displayed overhead, referring to Dumbledore awarding the last-minute house points for a concluding Gryffindor triumph. We'll see original costumes from the Malfoy family and from Lord Voldemort. Voldemort's evolution from the orphan to Tom Riddle, student at Hogwarts and prolific dark wizard, will also be charted through the film's costumes. So that sounds pretty awesome.
Super cool.
When are we going?
I want to go so bad.
That'd be bananas.
We have to. You're a Slytherin.
I know.
You gotta rep.
I know.
So how long is it there?
April 3rd through September 6th.
It's plenty of time to figure this out.
Well, we'll figure it out. Okay. Next is...
And then you have to go back again when it's Hufflepuff.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's just
For
more
each of us.
excuses. Next, I wanted to give a shout out to my favorite fan artist, Sid Sketch, again, who has an Etsy, etsy.com/shop/Sid Sketch. She has drawn my all-time favorite representation of the trio. Yes.
It's Sid SYD.
Yes, sorry. SYD Sketch. And also, she started a Patreon. So, like, her thing this year is that she's only drawing characters that represent the LGBTQ community or some other minority group. And she always draws Hermione as Black, and she is beautiful. Like, it's like my favorite portrayal of Hermione ever. And then also Harry is seen as half Indian. Mm-hmm. So her sketch for last month was Sirius and Remus. Actually, I guess that was January. February was Harry surrounded by his mom and dad's Patronuses, which was
heartbreaking.
So sweet. And I think that March she's doing something with Hagrid because he's considered to be half giant, which would be a minority group. And she like seems really excited about it. I totally joined her Patreon because I love her sketches, and she'll send you like a little 5x7 of the sketch along with like a coordinating sticker that goes with it. So I just wanted to give her a shout out because I just love her work so much and I'm obsessed with it, and I'm gonna have like a whole room dedicated to Sid Sketch's artwork. So yeah, I highly recommend. But I'll put the link to her shop in our page notes.
Okay.
Next, I wanted to talk about the Dallas Meetup that is going to happen. So Sarah, Katie, and myself will be in Dallas for the Dallas Fan Expo on March 28th. We are only really there all day on Saturday, so our time is limited, but we did want to make sure that we could meet with people outside of the Fan Expo as well. So we did find a little like outdoor park that's right near the convention center called Pioneer Plaza. They haven't released like the day schedule yet, so we don't have a time. They promised to release the schedule 14 days beforehand, so hopefully we'll know soon. Because like if there's going to be like a Q&A with the Weasleys or something like that, like we for sure want to be able to go and watch that. So I don't want to give you a time and then have that come up and it, you know, clashes. So we're going to wait to give a time until we get the schedule. But it's going to take place on Saturday, March 28th at Pioneer Plaza. Cross your fingers and toes for no rain because it's outside. So we'll let you know timing as soon as we know.
And it's right by the convention center.
Yeah, it's like across the street, like next to it.
It's not very far.
And then the very last thing that I wanted to talk about was, so last month, Tiffany chose to donate $486 because we had 486 patrons to Esperanza. And what do they do again? Just like a refresher.
So Esperanza is a nonprofit that basically just helps kids in the greater Cleveland area. And actually, when you go on their website, you can put where you want your money to go toward. So I chose from this drop-down menu the greatest area of need. And I thought that that was kind of essential because working in the greater Cleveland area, I know that a lot of our kids need a lot. So just knowing that our patrons donated into the greatest area of need for these kids in Cleveland just like makes my heart so incredibly happy. And I did, as far as putting like who the donation was from, I said Swish and Flick podcast patrons. So in honor of all of you, thank you so much. You are helping the kids of Cleveland. You're helping awesome. My kids. Yeah, that's cool.
So March is my turn to choose where we get to donate, and we now have 500 patrons, so the donation will be $500 because as of March 1st, that's how many that we have. And I chose Equality Now, and I am going to make that donation on March 8th, which is International Women's Day. So Equality Now is basically they fight for equality for women and girls because they want women, girls, men, and boys to be treated equally. That way, everybody wins. Obviously, this podcast is woman-run, woman-led. It's very important to us to make sure that women are treated equally. So we want to thank our patrons so much for allowing us to donate $500 because that is like a huge amount, and that's so awesome.
It is, yeah. It goes a long way.
It really does. Basically, what they do is like this goes towards like legal help that these women and girls may need for social change in different areas of the world. So it's not specific to a certain area. It is basically just where help is needed. This money goes to help with legal action for social change. So
good choice, Meg.
Woo-woo.
Good choice, Tiff.
I'm excited to donate. So on March 8th, which is actually, I think, the day that this episode is going to come out. So that will be
next week, like Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, Saturday or Sunday.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, that is when I'm going to make the donation for International Women's Day.
Woo woo!
Because
Awesome.
women rule.
Yeah. Tiffany.
I need
Wait.
you in the camera.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't in the camera.
I need to look at you.
Lay it on me.
Recap. And I thought about that one in the shower. I was like, you know what? We need to just go old school.
That was very gusto. All right. Last time, the hearing, or as we like to call it, the overdramatic trial. So we meet the most wonderful character in all of the Potter series, Dumbridge. Yay! Fudge does everything he can to try and convict Harry, but Mrs. Fig figs and Dumble dumbles, and Harry's cleared of all charges.
And everybody's
All
drawing
charges.
chairs.
And everybody's drawing chairs, and they're squashy, and...
I was really confused. I'm like, Mrs. Figs. Like, I thought you were just calling her that, like...
She's figging around, you know.
A fig figging around.
Oh my god.
That's like literally exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is Puffs. Sarah, you froze. Did you say something?
Yep.
Did you say?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
It's just gonna freeze again.
Yeah, just for our listeners to know, because of the bout of Swish sickness in the O'Malley home, my O'Malley home, we are recording via Skype today. So if we sound different, it's because the recording is different. But we're going to be back to normal next episode.
Yep.
All right.
Are we?
Hopefully. Yeah.
I think we are.
It just means I have to go from work to your house.
Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, maybe not next episode.
But
that
soon
is late.
after.
Soon, guys, soon.
Yeah.
Any whoosies. So, Harry's been cleared. Woo, 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 woo. And he's basically waiting to see, like, if he's allowed to leave. And so then, when he realizes he can, he runs. He books it out of the room to Mr. Weasley. And so then they leave. But not before, like, there's a parade of all the people walking out of the room. And his son walks out, and they don't even acknowledge each other. Sad tweet. And then, before they leave, they also see Mr. Malfoy, Luscious Malfoy. He's conversing with Fudge. Interesting. So everyone back at headquarters is very relieved that Harry has been cleared, and he's going back to Hogwarts. They just knew it, but they're also relieved. And a few days later, Hogwarts letters have arrived. Alert, alert, we have new prefects. Ron and Hermione have been chosen. They're the new chosen ones. They're prefects for Gryffindor. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Wait, it's not Harry?
No.
Oh, we're gonna talk about it. All right.
Awkward turtle.
Super awkward turtles. So, Harry is a little bit stunned by the abrupt departure of Dumbledore, because he's like, there and boom, gone. It's almost like he apparated, but he didn't. He's just really fast. Harry's still sitting in the middle of the room in the chair, and he's just shocked and relieved all at the same time, because I don't think in his heart of hearts, he really thought that he was going to be able to go back.
Yeah.
I think he thought it was over, especially the way that the time was changed, the location was changed, the room that they were in, the whole, like a full trial. And we need to come up with a different word for the Wizengamot, because I can't handle it. Can we just call it the Wizen?
No.
Because I can't handle the whole word.
The WizGiz instead of the WizPriz.
WizGiz, got it. Done.
WizGov.
Welcome to the WizGiz. Guilty of being fabulous. Okay.
Oh my god.
So, the whole WizGiz are getting to their feet, and they're gathering their things to leave. He feels super awkward because no one's paying attention to him, except that good old toad-like witch on Fudge's right. So he doesn't know if he's free to go. He's trying to catch Fudge's eye, or maybe Madame Bones' eye, to be like, hey, yeah, no, you can go. But seriously, no one's paying him any attention. So he awkwardly, like, backs out. And it reminds me of the Homer Simpson meme where he backs into the bushes.
Yeah.
So Harry wrenches the door open, and he almost runs into Mr. Weasley. So apparently Dumbledore had rushed past him too, because Dumbledore also didn't tell Arthur the outcome. So here's what I got to my thoughts were thinking. It strikes me as odd. So it's almost as if Dumbledore is like afraid to be near Harry. So this was my initial thought before I dove deeper and like pulled from the end of the book. So it doesn't seem like it's only for the benefit of Harry. Like something about this moment is odd. Like it's not just good for Harry that he stays away, it's good for Dumbledore that he also stays away. We know that he's not afraid of Voldemort, but it seems like a little bit much to like not even pause and be like, innocent, bye. You know what I mean? Like he's gone.
Yeah.
So I feel like Dumbledore's more so afraid of what would happen to Harry, not unlike how he tried to protect Ariana in not the most effective ways.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking, and it made me want to pull from the end of the book.
No.
What? So this is from chapter 37, and the title of that chapter is called The Lost Prophecy. And I'm going to read you a couple of quotes. So, quote, I believed it could not be long before Voldemort attempted to force his way into your mind, to manipulate and misdirect your thoughts. And I was not eager to give him more incentives to do so. Let that sink in. That's why he's not around, okay? Because Voldemort would have done that when he had figured it out. He would have for sure tried to see what Dumbledore was up to.
Mm-hmm.
I was sure that if he realized that our relationship was, or had ever been, closer than that of headmaster and pupil, he would seize his chance to use you as a means to spy on me. Totally would. I feared the uses to which he would put you, the possibility that he might try and possess you. Harry, I believe I was right to think that Voldemort would have made use of you in such a way. I was trying, in distancing myself from you, to protect you. An old man's mistake. So I just want everybody to keep those thoughts in mind when I feel like probably the majority of people like to, you know, I don't know how to say this, like go after Dumbledore, I guess, in a sense at the beginning of this book, but like hard choices have to be made. This isn't an easy situation. And no matter which way he would have gone about it, okay, do you want him ignoring you and, you know, you don't get possessed right at the beginning of the book because he eventually does? Or, you know, do you want that possibility of Voldemort being able to spy and use him and figure things out? Like there was no easy answer for this. Either way, it would not have been desirable. Go ahead.
I think for us too, we always had to remember that, like, I would say 99% of us have read the books, have seen all the movies, so we know everything that's happening. We know in this reread all of the other things that happened with this book, with the next two. So for us, hindsight's 2020. We know what's going to happen. Dumbledore, as much as he is, you know, a very smart guy, he's a powerful wizard, all of those things, he doesn't 100% know what the future holds, and he's literally just trying. That's what everyone is doing, and he's trying. I think, you know, like Tiffany was talking about with his sister, he doesn't want that same situation to happen again for anyone. So he's just trying to do what he thinks is best. And yeah, you could also say, like, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but and hindsight is 2020. Like, I think it's wrong for people to hate Dumbledore for, like, not talking to Harry. He's just doing what he thought was best. Mm-hmm. Is it a mistake? You know.
I mean, he even says that it is. Yeah. I think he thinks the way that he went about it was a mistake, but not what he did in the end. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he had to stay away from him. Whether you like that or not, I mean, that's obviously my pepper and opinion. But, like, I think he thinks the way that he did it was a mistake. Because, you know, we have all said, well, he could have like told somebody to be like, yo, I'm doing this for a reason, to calm him down and ease him. Yeah. So maybe that's what he calls the mistake. Katie.
I totally agree with you guys. So my argument to this quote this whole time has been, and I'm going to change it now because I'm realizing this, my argument was like, well, why couldn't Dumbledore just be like, Harry, look, like, this needs to happen. Like, you're not alone. I don't think he could have even done that. If he's trying to make it just headmaster pupil, because he's so terrified that if it's anything more, that Voldemort even gets a hint of, hey, Dumbledore said this to Harry to, like, distance, he's going to see that in his head. Voldemort can see absolutely everything in his head if he wants to, especially if Harry's vulnerable. So I don't even think he could have done that. This was, like, in his mind, the only way he could protect Harry. I have to go back on what I said this whole time.
I mean, that's fine. That's what this pod is about, you know?
I think, too, you know, we also had to remember, Harry's not, you know, dumb. Voldemort and... look, how am I trying to say this? So Dumbledore knows both of these people as students. Like, he knows them better than we do, realistically. And so he knows, like Katie was saying, like, Voldemort can see everything in Harry's head. And Voldemort himself is not dumb. So he could take one little tic-tac thing and realize, like, okay, these are all the different things that he could be doing with it. He's also a skilled wizard. You know, as Ollivander said, he did great. Yeah, terrible things, but he also did great things. So we're not dealing, I feel like, with the average wizard, you know, or average person.
I think, too, that, like, adding on to what Katie said, like, if he had told him, hey, I'm doing this because I cannot, like, I just can't be close to you because I think that there's this connection, whatever. Voldemort also, like,
would have known that.
Had he seen that, he would have tried even harder to be like, oh, well, let's manipulate this kid then.
For sure.
I'm going to put things in his head to force my way into Dumbledore and make sure that I learn the things I need to learn because at the end of the day, I'm just manipulating a 15-year-old kid and I can do that in my sleep. So let's do it, you know?
It almost makes it more dangerous for Harry if Voldemort were to give him a warning.
For sure.
You mean Dumbledore?
Dumbledore. Yeah, I knew exactly what you meant.
Yes, it almost makes it more dangerous for Harry if Dumbledore were to say, hey, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So, like, it sucks, but the best thing, like, literally was to keep him in the dark, which is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, sorry it took me, 9 chapters to pull this for people to, like, think about these things as you go. But, you know, nothing about this is easy.
No.
It just can't be. So there are reasons for everything. And that's all I got to say about that. So, where we stopped before we went into all of that, defending the Dumble, Harry informs Arthur that he's cleared of all charges. Hooray! The courtroom door opens again, and the WizGiz are all filing out, and Mr. Weasley is startled to see that Harry was tried by the full court. He even threw out a good Merlin's beard.
My favorite.
Some said hi to Arthur. Some didn't look at him. And even Fudge and the Toad-like one pretended that both Harry and Arthur didn't exist. And then last to walk out by them was none other than Percy. He completely ignored Arthur and Harry. Quote, he marched past clutching a large roll of parchment and a handful of spare quills, his back rigid and his nose in the air. The lines around Mr. Weasley's mouth tightened slightly, but other than this, he gave no sign that he had noticed his third son.
That was a good bell.
That was a good bell.
It is sad. It's very
I
sad.
was like, it just makes me sad.
I think at this point, Mr. Weasley feels defeated with Percy. Like, there's nothing else he can say. There's nothing he can do. He just needs to wait for Percy to come around and realize his mistake. And as much as that sucks, I just feel like Arthur knows that that's all he can do at this point.
Yeah, he's probably thinking too, like, that's not who he raised, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Percy and Ron have these comeback moments.
But too, like, I mean, at this point in time, they're both Percy and, like, Mr. Weasley, like, they're doing what they think is best.
Mm-hmm.
And Percy's just naive, you know?
Yeah, well, we'll dive deeper into Percy's reasoning and character, definitely, for sure. So Arthur tells Harry that he will drop him off on his way to fix the toilet, and Arthur says something epically important. Quote, "Oh, it's a simple enough anti-jinx," said Mr. Weasley as they mounted the stairs. "But it's not so much having to repair the damage. It's more the attitude behind the vandalism, Harry. Muggle baiting might strike some wizards as funny, but it's an expression of something much deeper and nastier."
Yep.
Yeah. I agree.
If you take this into real-time life context, it can go as like young as kids poking fun at one another in school for certain things.
Yep.
Whatever differences there are. Pick one, anyone, doesn't matter. It could be anything. So I implore everyone to put a stop to it. It always starts small, so make sure that all your actions towards others are actions that are full of kindness and respect.
Preach.
It's
No.
crazy that you can put that towards like something as simple as, you know, someone teasing somebody at school, turning into massive bullying situation at school, turning into like massive worldwide racism, etc. Like that sentence can be applied to so many things that go towards everyday life. It's crazy.
Well, you even think like you don't know how your words can affect people, you know what I mean, in a positive or negative way.
For sure.
Well, and as kids grow and mature, so do the things that they do.
Yep.
So if we start by showing kindness and respect, those things will grow and mature rather than putting others down and whatnot. I mean, pick a undesirable behavior, you know, and there you go. But that
Right.
is that's my moment for today. Be nice. Arthur is broken off mid-sentence because as they reached the 9th level corridor, Fudge was there, and he was talking quietly to a man with sleek blonde hair.
Would you
Very
say
luscious.
it's luscious?
It's super lush. And a familiar pointed pale face. His cold gray eyes are fixed upon Harry, and they too stopped mid-sentence.
I always think like, what do gray eyes really look like? I'm gonna Google it.
Gray.
I know, but like, it's not a color that you like see a lot. You know, they all look
It's
blue
true.
gray to me.
Well, that probably.
Sorry, I now Googling gray eyes. Go
Quote,
on.
"Well, well, well. Patronus Potter," said Lucius Malfoy coolly.
Nice
So-
alliteration there, luscious.
Mm,
Can we talk about how like childish that is?
well, I mean,
Patronus Potter.
Oh, Patronus Potter, you get away
Draco.
with everything. Blah blah blah.
Draco Malfoy could have said that, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
interchange, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
And then something happens, and it makes me really sad because Harry has a flashback of what happened to him previously. Quote, "Harry felt winded as though he had just walked into something heavy. He had last seen those cool gray eyes through the slits in a Death Eater's hood, and last heard the man's voice jeering in a dark graveyard while Lord Voldemort tortured him. He could not believe that Lucius Malfoy dared to look him in the face. He could not believe that he was here in the Ministry of Magic, or that Cornelius Fudge was talking to him. But when Harry had told Fudge mere weeks ago that Malfoy was a Death Eater. But, you know, money talks louder than teenage boys and a big ego."
Sorry, that's not funny because that's so true.
It is. And here's the thing, like, this is part of Harry's trauma coming back.
Oh yeah.
And
For sure.
it's tough.
I was just gonna say, like, this is straight up PTSD. Like, the fact that he literally feels like he's, like, walking into a brick wall, you know, like, he sees those eyes and it just, like, all hits him. Like, that is, like, a triggering moment. It's
It's crazy.
It's written well.
Yeah. And then Malfoy does something pretty gutsy, and I can't stand him. He taunts Harry with how very, quote, snake-like Harry was to have, quote, wriggled out of a very tight hole. And it's like he's saying, yeah, that was me in the graveyard, and you can't do anything about it. Like, you got
For
away
sure.
one time, and you're not going to be doing it again.
For
Yeah.
sure.
But the
Such
wonderful...
a Richard.
Yeah, the wonderful thing about Harry, though, is that even though he deals with his PTSD and these strong emotions and his anxiety, and having just gone through a hearing in the front of the entire WizGiz, and he is still able to fire back. And I want to be like him. I want to be like him in the moments where I'm feeling, you know, these anxious feelings that he has. And he goes, yeah, said Harry. Yeah, I'm good at escaping. So, shut it.
Escaping.
I think that we should just call Mr. Malfoy Richard Malfoy.
Oh my gosh.
Richard Malfoy.
Richard Luscious Malfoy.
Good old Rich.
Richie
Ma-
Rich.
Malfoy can't really say anything back to that, so he turns to Arthur and tries to belittle him so he can feel like a big shot again. So he asks Arthur why he's there, and Arthur's like, duh, I work here. And he goes, not here, surely, said Mr. Malfoy, raising his eyebrows and glancing towards the door over Mr. Weasley's shoulder. I thought you were up on the second floor. Don't you do something that involves sneaking Muggle artifacts home and bewitching them? Low blow, bro.
Is
Arthur's
Lucius like 5?
Honest to God.
Seriously. But you know what? Adults like him in real-time life act
Do
like
this.
this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, they're trying to be a big man on campus and be like, I can say these things. I'm not going to let a 15-year-old outwit me.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
So-
he beat your guy not once, by the end of it, twice. He's going to sneak away, and he's better than you. Say bye.
Arthur says no, and he digs his fingers into Harry's shoulder, which kind of made me laugh because you know he's irritated, but he's trying not to show it, so he's like, and he inquires why Malfoy is also down here because he doesn't belong. He tells him that private matters between him and the Minister of Magic are none of his concern. And then he does something that is super extra. He smooths the front of his robes, and gold jingles in his pocket. Really, just because you are Dumbledore's favorite boy, you must not expect the same indulgence from the rest of us. Okay, dude. And then they strode off together. Do-do-do-do-do. Like skipping down a meadow.
Hand in hand.
There's like a video of somebody dressed as Voldemort skipping through a meadow, isn't there? Online? There is.
I don't know, but I want to see it if there is.
I guarantee you've seen it. He's like, do-do-do-do-do. Yeah. There it is.
Thank you, Discord.
So, I'm going to end with a little quote here. Why wasn't he waiting outside Fudge's office if they've got business to do together? Harry burst out furiously. What was he doing down here? Trying to sneak down to the courtroom, if you ask me, said Mr. Weasley, looking extremely agitated as he glanced over his shoulder as though making sure that they could not be overheard. Trying to find out whether you've been expelled or not. I'll leave a note for Dumbledore when I drop you off. He ought to know Malfoy's been talking to Fudge again. What private business do they have together anyway? Gold, I expect, said Mr. Weasley angrily. Malfoy's been giving generously to all sorts of things for years. Gets him in with the right people, then he can ask favors, delay laws he doesn't want passed. Oh, he's very well connected, Lucius Malfoy. Scum, bye.
Sounds a lot like our government at times.
This is just straight up the bad side of politics, and like it's scary that this is real.
Yeah.
That's real.
Money drives
But I feel like it's not
everything.
even just politics. Like, I've
Yeah.
seen, and I like have said, because I've worked in where I've worked for like 10 years, and you see like people that know people, like they,
I mean, pick a
Almost-
profession, it's everywhere.
yeah, you know, like if you know someone, like you're gonna get treated differently, which I don't, because I don't think that's right. You know what I mean? Like everyone should be treated, especially like in a hospital setting, like a patient's a patient, no matter who they know or all of that stuff. So it's sad that this happens,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Yep.
According to my Pepper.
Okay, so the lift arrives and it was empty, minus a flock of memos, which I thought was just kind of like a funny little phrase. But Harry suggests in the lift that if Fudge is seeing Death Eaters and alone, how do we know that he isn't under the Imperious Curse? And First of all, I think that that's really, that's cool of Harry to notice. Like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like...
Observant?
It's observant, yes. That's very observant of Harry.
Well, he's already thinking like an Auror would think. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
he's had all this experience already, and it's such, like, he's so young, and he's already thinking like that. Like, that's very, like, proactive of him to be thinking that way.
Also, like, the difference between how Harry saw Fudge last, not the parting of the ways, but, like, how Harry was treated by Fudge before, and now, it's almost like Harry might think he has to be under some kind of influence, because, like, what the hell?
It's very different. It's like night and day,
Yeah.
right?
It's because it baffles him completely that all of this evidence can be in front of you and you're still making the decisions that you are. It's just like how we say we don't understand how people can be, like, mean. Like, we don't understand mean people. Well, that's a good thing, because it means that we aren't that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Right.
good thing that he's not that way.
Yeah. And Arthur basically is like, oh, it's been discussed, like, but that being said, Dumbledore does not think that he is under it yet. He thinks he's acting of his own accord, which isn't really much comfort, because it's just, again, like you guys were saying, like, it's surprising that Fudge would be a totally different person a couple of months ago, and now all of a sudden he, willful ignorance. So, they exit the lift, and the atrium is also nearly deserted because it's not arriving time. Everybody's in their offices. It's pretty empty up there, except for good old Eric Munch, who is eating his lunch.
Eric Munch!
But actually, no, he's just reading some, quote, good old Daily Prophet, aka not good. He should probably stop reading it. But anyway, him and Arthur walk right past the fountain before Harry remembers the little promise that he made to himself. This is a quote from the book. It says, "He looked up into the handsome wizard's face, but up close Harry thought he looked rather weak and foolish. The witch was wearing a vapid smile like a beauty contestant, and from what Harry knew of goblins and centaurs, they were most unlikely to be caught staring this soppily at humans of any description. Only the house elf's attitude of creeping servility looked convincing. With a grin at the thought of what Hermione would say if she could see the statue of the elf, Harry turned his money bag upside down and emptied not just 10 galleons, but the whole contents into the pool at the statue's feet." Yes, Tiffany.
I find it interesting that in the magical world, they don't move.
Yeah, the statues.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It's
I
just,
think,
Sometimes
interesting
they
to
do
think.
in the Muggle world. They do sometimes. Like when there's people.
I had to think about that for a minute. I was like, what?
I just find the description, like, talking about the description of, like, the wizard and the witch and the goblin and the centaur. It's
just so
interesting.
bogus.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to me that, like, they would be portrayed this way. It's just very real, honestly, because this is the wizard government trying to portray what they think is true in this statue, when in reality it's not, and it's all a farce, and it's just very much like real-time life. So
Yeah.
Yeah, like, if that's really what you think they're, like, looking at you like, okay, open your eyes.
right. Yeah, it's just like,
Like, what gives you the right to think you're so high and mighty? It's
A
gross.
wand.
but I do like that Harry says that he thinks that the wizard looked rather weak and foolish.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they would make the witch wear this smile that looks like a beauty contestant. Like,
And
get
of
out of
course,
here.
the lesser creatures, quote
Are
unquote,
just
would be
staring
just,
up at them
yeah,
in awe.
right.
Like, no, that's not true. So anyway, they get back to number 12, and Ron and Hermione were super excited that Harry got off on the trial. Ron literally punches the air and says, "I knew it," and Hermione says, "They were bound to clear you. There was no case against you at all." And Harry Harry makes note that they all seem quite relieved, even though they all knew he was going to get off. Which, obviously, I think that, realistically, it shouldn't have been an issue with him getting off, but they all knew how corrupt the government is right now, and that's why they were so nervous.
Right.
Even though, at the beginning of this chapter, or most of the episode, well, I guess it's true, that Arthur was like, wow, they had, a full court, in there. He even was like, ooh.
He was surprised, yeah. So, where did I leave off? So, Mrs. Weasley was even crying, which I find sweet, but also, the relief she must be feeling at this point, just to, know that all is well, it worked out the way that it should have.
Is this kid gonna have to live in another room? I gotta build on my house.
Right.
No, he'll show her Ginny.
Oh.
Yeah. And then Fred, George, and Ginny start dancing and chanting. And this reminds me a lot of in the movie, whenever they were at the Triwizard tournament.
Yeah.
No, not the Triwizard tournament. You mean the
Quidditch Cup.
Yep, the Quidditch
When they're
Cup. Yeah, and they're dancing around, chanting about Crumb. And so that's kind of what they were doing in the kitchen. And Mr. Weasley, while he was smiling, told them to settle down. And he then turns to Sirius. Mr. Weasley turns to Sirius and and tells him about the fact that Luscious was at the Ministry. And he was talking to Fudge on level 9 and went to Fudge's office together with him, and that Dumbledore ought to know.
Dumbledore ought to know.
Is that the lowest level?
I think.
I'm sorry. Keep reading. I'll tell you what I found later.
Okay.
Tiffany.
No! Okay.
Tell me now.
Dante's 9 circles of HE double hockey sticks. Level 9 is fraud.
Oh. That's cool.
I like that, Tiffany.
That's totally on purpose. That's cool. So Mr. Weasley heads back to the Ministry after telling them that there's a vomiting toilet in Bethnal Green. He won't be back until late because he's covering for Tonks tonight, which we found out in the previous chapter or two because Tonks was falling asleep on her watch duties. So Mr. Weasley said he would cover for her, and then he also said that Kingsley may stop by for dinner. So Mrs. Weasley, of course, tells Harry that now that he's cleared, all is well, let's sit down, you can have lunch now, you barely touched your breakfast, which is a very motherly thing to do.
Do they invite Eric Munch?
They should have invited Eric Munch.
Just
He was having brunch with his family.
But he could have come for lunch as another meal.
Second breakfast.
Yes.
I mean, I think he was available. It's just a hunch. Megan's trying to think of another hunch word.
No.
They're gonna eat Captain Crunch.
Oh, there's something I was looking at my notes before we started, and there was something weird going on with something I had copy pasted from the book, and then I pasted the whole wrong thing here because this is a double. Don't mind me. So anyway.
All right.
I think that its creature pokes his head in, his snout-like nose into the kitchen to investigate the source of all the noise. But I feel like there was more that I was supposed to copy there. Anyway, okay, so Ron then says that, of course, once Dumbledore shows up, there's no way that they would convict him. And Harry agreed, but then felt childish for thinking in his head, I wish he'd talked to me, though, or even looked at me. And as he thought this, his scar burned. Why? Was that the Horcrux thinking? Why did his scar just immediately burn just by thinking that? Isn't that weird?
I didn't think about it.
Isn't that weird? Tiffany's like, mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm just saying. I
don't know. That was just super. I was like, what? Why would that? He didn't say it, but he thought that. What are you looking up?
Nothing. I'm writing down a lightning bolt question.
Oh.
Sorry.
So anyway, I thought that was interesting and maybe a little.
Did you think it was interesting?
I did.
How right is Tiffany lately?
No, I disagree.
Why did it burn, though,
reasons.
then? Is that, like,
Isn't
what
that
other
weird?
reason could it have burned?
I don't know, maybe it was just a coinky-dink.
Scar is on fire.
There are no Winky Dinks in Potter.
That is true. But
I mean, I
anyway.
don't know.
So Hermione looks alarmed because she notices Harry, has a moment of pain. She's like, "What's up?" And he just says Scar, but it's nothing. It happens all the time now. None of the others had
Really?
Yeah, none of the others had noticed a thing. All of them were now helping themselves to food while gloating over Harry's narrow escape. Fred, George, and Ginny were still singing. Hermione looked rather anxious, but before she could say anything, Ron said happily, "I bet Dumbledore turns up this evening to celebrate with us, I don't think he'll be able to, Ron," said Mrs. Weasley, setting a huge plate of roast chicken down in front of Harry. He's really very busy at the moment.
Yeah, busy not seeing you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, Lord. Tiffany.
Everybody just needs to come to the dark side. Come on over.
Today, yeah.
Look,
You know why? You're wearing a hat.
Wearing a hat.
Oh my god.
I don't have a hood on, but I have my Slytherin sweatshirt on.
I'll be a snake with you today.
Okay.
So,
Y'all are crazy.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Over the next few days, Harry, he notices that there's one person at number 12 who doesn't seem to share the same enthusiasm as everybody else about Harry going back to Hogwarts.
Oh,
So-
honey.
Gotta get back to Hogwarts.
Who is that?
Who's what?
Oh, is that a Harry Potter musical?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, what do you mean? Who's
I
what?
was like, is it Harry and the Potters? No.
No.
So when Harry had gotten home from his hearing, quote, Sirius had put up a very good show of happiness on first hearing the news, wringing Harry's hand and beaming just like the rest of them. But that didn't really last very long. Soon he was even moodier and surlier than before. He even talked less to everybody, even Harry, and he spent more and more time shut up in his mother's room with Buckbeak. Yes, Tiff.
I think this is a very good example of how Sirius and his growth
Yes.
to adulthood
Yes.
was stifled.
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah.
And it makes me really sad for him. And it makes me sad for Harry, too, that he has to, feel bad,
Yeah.
I
Because he
think that-
does. He feels a little guilty.
Yeah.
I think that had he been allowed out, I don't think he would have been
This way?
this shut off
Yeah.
completely. I think he still would have had a lot of feelings, but at least he would feel less
I
cooped up.
agree.
Because like if his animagus is a dog, like I think of like Fozzie, like literally like when it's nice out, like he just wants to be outside. He would be outside the entire day because he loves it. You know what I mean? Like dogs don't always want to stay inside unless it's raining. Then he won't go outside. But like that's Sirius's whole thing. Like he probably, as much as like it kind of sucked being on the run and everything, but at least he was free and able to like be out in the element and the wind, fresh air, and all of those things. And now he's like cooped up. He's thinking probably in his head like, oh, Harry's gonna be expelled, and we're gonna be able to have like time together and like go and do things. And then no, and he's still cooped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I was thinking, and Eddie in the chat pointed out, like this makes the loss of Sirius even harder because this is lost time with Sirius,
Yeah.
which you never know that. I think it's very important to reiterate the fact that like every moment is precious and you need to live in the moment, and like you never know. Like that's really sad and scary to think of, but like this is a perfect example of it. Sirius really doesn't have a lot of time left on Earth, and this is time that he could have been spending with Harry when he's already missed out on 12 years.
Yeah.
But he's just consumed by this, which, yeah, it sucks on so many levels.
Yeah. I mean, this is also one of those things that is a good reminder for us is to use our time wisely and with the ones we love and doing what we love as much as we can.
Right.
Yeah.
So Harry confides in Ron and Hermione, and immediately Hermione's like, don't you go feeling guilty. You belong at Hogwarts. Sirius knows that. Personally, I think he's being selfish. And Ron says, hey, that's a bit harsh. Like, you wouldn't want to be stuck in this house without any company. And
True.
Hermione is like, he'll have company. There's the order comes and goes. He just got his hopes up that Harry would be coming to live with him. But Harry's like, I don't know if that's true, because I kind of asked him the exact same thing when I didn't know what the outcome of my trial was going to be, and Sirius wouldn't give me a straight answer. So Hermione insists, like, no, he just didn't want to get his hopes up. He's probably feeling a little guilty himself because she thinks a part of Sirius was hoping Harry would be expelled so that they could be outcast together. Harry and Ron disagree, but Hermione just shrugs and she's like, suit yourselves, but I think sometimes Ron's mom is right and Sirius get confused about whether you are you or your father, Harry. So she doesn't think that Sirius is crazy. She just thinks he's been very lonely for a very long time. So we kind of talked about this. But I wanted to know what you guys thought. Like, do you think Sirius really was hoping, not like, I don't think he was like, yes, please get expelled, but I think there might have been a small part of him just because he has been lonely for so long. And as Tiffany was pointing out, he didn't get to grow up. He's still in that, like, very early young adult stage. So to have that thought, I don't think it's very outlandish.
No, I short answer, yeah. I think there was a small part of him hoping, but
I mean, realistically,
I think he feels bad for hoping it too.
I think two things. I think we also forget that, like, how young he still is. Like, he's only,
Correct.
what, like, 35, 36
something.
years old?
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm, not that I'm, like, super close to being that age, but, like, if you're going to tell me now, like, these things, like, I still feel like I'm a kid sometimes.
Yep.
But, and there's also times where, like, you know, you're having thoughts about, like, he's probably... part of him is hoping, like, Harry's gonna, like, go back to school because, like, he knows those are, like, the best days, really, of his life, where times are, like, at Hogwarts with the Marauders and his friends and all of that stuff, so he knows that Harry, like, should go back to school and all of those things, but he also, part of him, selfishly, is probably thinking, like, I would love for him to be here, so, like, I'm not lonely, but also, like, I can have a bit of my friend back.
Right.
But then he's probably feeling guilty for feeling that way, you know? Like, it makes me think of, like, in the... Hermione talking about, like, how Cho feels about, like, kissing Harry and all of those feelings, like,
Yes.
So you know, we're all complex people, and he's probably thinking and feeling, like, a million different things, and that's probably why he's shutting himself out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could be that, like I said, just quickly before you started, is that, you know, he could be shutting himself out because maybe he feels like, oh man, he's not staying, and it could also be that he feels really bad and he's beating himself up for wanting him to, you know, have been found guilty.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he probably too.
I think we see a lot with Lupin and with Sirius is that really they're really hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And that this could be a result of that.
I think too, like, there are probably times, and we see it, you know, later on, like, that he does think of him as James sometimes. I think he, like, almost forgets, but he's also probably beating himself on being like, he's not James, like, this is Harry, like, he's both Lily and James, you know, a lot of emotions swirling around.
He's like arguing with himself, almost fighting with himself.
One of my all-time favorite add-ins from the movie is Sirius saying, nice one, James. Like, that was just ingenious. That was such a good line to add. I'm surprised it wasn't in the book, honestly. Like, it fits so well. It flowed so well. And I think that Sirius, like, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. Like, he has to be feeling guilty. I'm sure that he probably was just grasping on to that worry that everyone else was thinking. Like, oh, shoot, the government really might expel him. And Sirius was like, yeah, they might. Wow, what would that be like? And then he, like, thought of all these things, and that's what he was grasping on to. And then, when it didn't happen, of course he felt guilty, because he was like, why would I want that for Harry? Like, I don't, obviously. Yeah. It was just, like, in the moment, like, oh my gosh, I would have a friend, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, this is real feelings that people would have. Maybe the situations are different.
I know.
But, like,
there are times with me that I've had, like, feelings somewhere, you know, in, like, a situation where, like, realistically, like, it's better it's turning out this way, but at the same time, like, I wish it had gone this way. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, it's very realistic, I feel like.
Yep, it's easy to connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, Meg, what you said, I think we've all, like, said that a couple times, like, we love that line that they added in. For the first time ever, the other day, I saw a post about someone who cannot stand that add-in, and I need to find it. It was somewhere on Tumblr. I'll have to find it, but I was, like, shocked. So.
That's, like, my favorite add-in.
It's not my favorite, but I can see how people could go like either way on it. I enjoy it, but it is like it's a confusing moment because of what happens after that. So it like kind of diverts your attention really quick, and then all of a sudden the spell's thrown. So it's like I could just see that somebody wouldn't like it, but yeah. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's just personally I think it's a deep.
It lets you know who he is.
It's a deep representation of, like, how Sirius views Harry, and Harry sees it as, like, oh my god, he thinks I'm, like, one of his best buds.
His
you know
bros,
what I mean? Like,
man.
yeah, it's a deep connection, even though they haven't had a lot of time together.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was a nice, I love it. So, Mrs. Weasley peeks in because the trio is scrubbing out an old cupboard, as they've been doing, like, every day this whole summer. The poor things. So she peeks in, and she seems to think they should have been finished by now. And Ron is kind of like, I thought you were coming in to tell me we could have a break. Like, we've been doing this forever. And she's like, well, you were so keen to help the Order. Like, you can do your part by helping to make headquarters fit to live in, which is, like, such a mom thing.
Such a mom thing.
And Ron's like, I feel like a house elf. Oop, buddy, you need to watch what you say, because here goes Hermione. She's launching into SPEW mode.
Just say spew.
All right,
just say it.
Herm's going into spew mode. And she's basically like, well, maybe now you'll understand the dreadful lives they lead, and maybe now you'll be a bit more active with spew. And then Meg, this made me think of you. She, like, launches into, like, she's like, oh my god, we could do a sponsored scrub of Gryffindor Common Room. All proceeds to spew. It'll raise awareness. It'll raise funds. And then Ron, thankfully, Hermione
super Megan.
I know. And it's a good idea. Ron mutters so she can't hear. He's like, I'll sponsor you to shut up about spew.
I texted you guys that when I read that line. I was like, dude, this is Ron on point.
I enjoyed that so much.
It's
because I could just see him doing, I'll sponsor you to shut up about spew.
I feel like that's something I would say.
Yep.
It made me think of how far he comes too, because then in 7 he says something about the house elves, and that's what makes Hermione kiss him. Like, so cute. Mm-hmm. They all glow up, guys.
Oh my god.
So Harry's daydreaming more and more about Hogwarts as the days go on. He misses Hagrid, he misses Quidditch.
Who doesn't?
Right? And he just thinks about how he wants to leave this dusty, musty house, but he's very careful not to say any of this within earshot of Sirius, because he's already in a testy mood, and he knows that that's the root of his problems, pretty much, so. And I thought this was really interesting. Harry admits that living at headquarters of the anti-Voldemort movement really isn't nearly as interesting or as exciting as Harry would have expected it to be before he got there and experienced it for himself. So sure, you have members of the Order coming and going. Sometimes they stay for meals, sometimes it's just long enough for, like, a real quick whispered conversation. But Mrs. Weasley really made sure that they all stayed out of the loop. And no one, not even Sirius, seemed to think that Harry needed to know anything more than what he had heard the first night he had gotten there.
It's such a Gryffindor thing. That it's like, living at the Order's headquarters is not as exciting as you thought it was going to be. You know?
Right?
He's so adventurous.
Alright. It's my turn now. Shut up and listen.
Don't put your hands in the air. I don't want to hear your thoughts.
Any whoosies. So it's basically the last day of their holidays. And Ron brings in, I don't know why it's brought in there, Hogwarts letters with their book list. Woohoo! And Ron notes that it has come a lot later than it normally does. And so he starts reading the book list, and then, like, Fred and George come in, and he, like, stops talking, and I think it's part of what he gets in the letter, and part of them, like, cracking into the room. So the first book that we hear is the Standard Book of Spells, by Miranda Goshawk. Is that how you pronounce her last name?
I think we said Goshawk. Goshawk?
I don't know.
Sure.
Shrug emoji.
And so we know she is the author that specialized in charms, writing spell books. What? Writing charms, spell books. Sorry. And they're used in Hogwarts, obviously. I'm not going to read all. There's like a stuff from the wiki about her, and I don't feel like reading it. Oh. And we've talked about her before. And then the next book is Defensive Magical Theory by Wilbert Slinkard. Slinkard?
Yep. Slinkard.
Slinkard.
Slinksoft.
Okay. And so we know he's a wizard. This is also from the Wikia, who authored the book Defensive Magical Theory, and it was approved by the British Ministry of Magic as a suitable textbook for the Defense Against the Dark Arts classes.
So let's get one thing straight with this.
Yes.
Theory books are great, but they're not practice.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can study theory, but until you put that theory into practice, it is still just theory.
Well, you know what they say. Practice makes perfect. And isn't there that one thing it's like people use, I've seen it gone around, and I think I've seen it in the group where like, you shouldn't fear the man that practices like 1,000 kicks, like to be like, all right, you should fear the man that practices one kick 1,000 times. And then it talks about like Harry being like perfect, doing Expelliarmus like perfectly or whatever.
I actually read a quote by someone, and it was fitness related, but instead of saying practice makes perfect, they said practice makes progress. And I thought that was
that.
I like that.
I thought that was pretty
Yeah. So, and then the twins are kind of like, oh, I wonder who assigned the book. Because it must mean that Dumbledore finally found someone that was going to teach Defense Against the Dark Arts, because they had heard a couple weeks back, they had been eavesdropping on their parents talking about Dumbledore was having a really hard time finding someone to fill the position. And then they're like, well, who would want the position anyway? So, like, we know, at least from what we've seen with Harry, in the past 4 years, there's been 4 teachers. And before then, I believe every year it's someone different. Anyways, so since Harry's been there, the first one, he's dead. The second one doesn't remember much of anything. The third one was fired. And then the last one was locked in a trunk for 9 months. So it doesn't seem like it's a position that people want to go into.
It's coist.
I'm sorry, the third one was not fired. He left by his own will.
He resigned.
Oh,
he resigned?
Okay. He resigned.
I mean, that's true. But in this book, they literally quote, one was sacked. So he left. I think it was one of those things. And I shouldn't say it like this, because Dumbledore would not have fired him. He left before the rest of those people, like, on the board could fire him, you know?
Can't fire me. I quit.
But yes, you're not wrong. They finally realized, that Ron has been quiet this entire time, which is not usually Ron. Mm-hmm. So Fred kind of like moves closer to him to see like what's wrong. And then they both are standing there with their mouths open. Prefect, he said, staring incredulously at the letter. Prefect. And literally, the twins don't believe that Ron is a prefect. So they're holding up the letter at the light, making sure it's real. Fred even says there's been a mistake. And the twins look at Harry and say, basically, like, they thought for sure that Harry would have been the one to make prefect. Yes.
Can I just say this? Hate me if you must. Harry shouldn't have been prefect, and neither should Ron.
Why shouldn't Ron have been prefect?
They could have chosen someone else. Ron is not prefect material, in my opinion, as far as school goes.
Would you say that Remus Lupin is prefect material?
Absolutely.
More so than his friends, yeah. I would have never chosen Ron.
Vinny says
Dean. Other Gryffindors in that year.
I do agree that Dean probably should have
whatever.
No, Ron.
Hermione makes perfect sense. Ron does not.
I will fight you. Ron is better than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. Anywho's.
All right.
So, they're basically like Harry would have been the one to make prefect. They were sure that Dumbledore was bound to pick him. Like, he won the tournament. But, he's also done a lot of rule breaking. And George mentions how Molly is going to be revolting. And he gives Ron his badge back, like, thrusts it in his hand. And he says, or from the book it says, Ron, who still had not said a word, took the badge, stared at it for a moment, and then held it out to Harry as though asking mutely for confirmation that it was genuine. Harry took it. A large P was superimposed on the Gryffindor lion. He had seen a badge just like this, on Percy's chest on his very first day at Hogwarts. So then just now, like, Hermione runs into the room with her letter, and she sees Harry with the badge in his hand, and she excitedly says that she, too, has been made prefect, and she just knew that Harry would have as well. But Harry corrects her, saying it's Ron's badge, not his. And I'm going to read from the chapter.
I'm going to do a poll on Twitter real quick. So I will pull the data at the end of this episode, and we'll see. I'm going to ask, should Ron have been made a prefect?
This is like, if you want to cringe...
I think Ron should have been.
I'm okay with it being prefect.
People
I'm not.
Don't give him enough credit. He's smart. He is resourceful. I think that he, especially if he's like with Hermione, she's probably a little bit more rule abiding and more willing to like follow them. But like, he's also not going to like let people get away with stuff.
Good, Tiff.
Yes.
Okay. So from a teacher standpoint, unless Dumbledore is doing this to get Harry to maybe follow rules more or to push Ron to his full potential, then I can see him being made a prefect. But other than that, like, as far as being a role model for other students, I'm not hating on Ron. I love Ron, but he's not a role model for other students as far as behavior and as far as having his academics are all right. I'm not talking about grades, but I'm talking about study habits and things of that nature.
That's fair. I think Dumbledore was just a Ron and Hermione shipper.
I think, too, that, like you said, that he needs to reach his full potential, and I think that that's a way of doing it, personally.
I mean, that's fine. No, I said that, like a lot of the times, like, I'm not agreeing with you completely. Don't get excited. Don't get your knickers in a twist. But like sometimes if we have in the teaching world, if you have a student that maybe has some trouble with behavior, whatever it is, if you give them a job, they often rise to the occasion, so to speak. So, I mean, if Dumbledore was doing that, like I said before, sure, make him a prefect.
I also think that, like, there's a big difference between, like, Ron and the twins. Like, the twins, obviously, aren't like their siblings, where, like, Bill, head boy, Charlie, Quidditch captain, right? Wasn't he? And,
yeah,
like,
think so.
went that route. And then Percy, head boy. And then the twins themselves are, like, more, they're the twins, you know what I mean? Like, they are kind of goofballs-ish, you know? They like pranks, they like doing all of those things. Obviously, they aren't too troubled with like their studies because they are gonna leave Hogwarts in this book. But like with Ron, I think that they see what he can become, and like I think he needs this push in order to realize his full potential. And he is smart and he is a good student. I think that he's a good balance of like between his
What do you
older
mean
brothers.
when you say he's a good student?
Well, like, I think that people genuinely forget that he's, like, intelligent, and yes, like, I think that they assume that, like, Hermione's doing all of his work for him and, like, all of those things. Like, he's not skeeving off of class or anything.
Coming up with the definition of a good student, I think, involves more than how smart one is.
I would agree.
I could pull from Marty, for example, and from yourself. Would you have called yourself a good student in high school?
I'm still not a good student.
There you
Here's
are.
the thing.
But it doesn't
I
mean
wouldn't
that
say
you're
that-
not intelligent. Marty is
I'm not saying that either, but I think that, like, with
he wasn't a good student.
But with Ron, I think that he's like a realistic person. Like Percy, always studying. Ron maybe didn't have to do that as much. Like we've talked with Chris Rankin, how he's like, you know, well, I guess I don't know if he said this on our podcast, but I think he said this at the Ironton convention about like if you really think about it, like people are always like he's the smartest one, you know what I mean, because he's constantly studying. And I think a big part with Hermione constantly studying is that she felt like she needed to prove to herself and to others that she, just because she's Muggle-born, doesn't mean she's any less. So for her studying hard and getting the best grades possible, that's her proving that she has a right to be there, and that her blood status has nothing to do with how intelligent and how good of a witch she can be. So I think with Ron, he might not have to work as hard, but I think he also is like an everyman student. You know what I mean? Like, he, for the most part, follows the rules. He's, a fan of Quidditch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that he's a good mix of his brothers, where, like, Charlie and the twins, not so much Charlie, but, like, the twins are, like, completely left field, like, don't necessarily care as much. And then there's Percy, who's, like, always studying, and Bill, who's, like, Bill and Charlie.
Would you say, like, Ron does just enough? He's that everyday guy that does just enough.
No.
I just think he's well-rounded, in my opinion.
As far as schoolwork goes.
Ron really reminds me of Remus in a lot of ways, in terms of, like, how he is as a student and, like, his friends, I mean, and Harry, honestly, Ron and Harry, I think, are very similar in a lot of ways. Like, neither of them really have to try super hard in school. They do okay. They break the rules, but it's not like they're breaking the rules like Fred and George break the rules. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
no, I get that.
Ron and Harry break the rules, but they literally to, like, save the wizarding world ways. Most times. Like, okay, they brewed the Polyjuice potion and that was against the rules, but, like, they were doing it because they thought that they needed to,
I don't know. Just as a teacher, I just think about Ron and how, he and Harry would, like, make up their dream diaries, or Hermione would highly edit their work, or sometimes Hermione did Ron's work for him. So that's just what comes to my mind.
But I think that people forget that, like, obviously, like, she can't be with him when he's taking, like, his tests and doing all those things. I think majority of those people made up that stupid dream journal thing. You know what I mean? Like, and it's divination. That's not even real.
To their credit, their stuff came true.
Yeah, it is.
To their credit, their stuff did come true. That is accurate.
And I think that, like, when you think of the trio, you think, like, Harry, he's the chosen one, and he's the one that is powerful and able to do all of these things. And then there's Hermione, she's the brains. And I think that people just not assume, but, like, they're like, oh, Ron's just there for, like, comic relief and all of those things. But each one of them is very valuable in their own ways. And I don't like when people shit on him. And I think that
not what I'm talking about.
I just disagree with you. I think he is and made a good prefect.
Is Ron more tomato or sauce?
He's full tomato.
Got it.
Teddy over here thinks that it's just ginger representation, and that's why Ron became prefect.
Okay. Good call, Ted.
You gotta rep the gingers.
Somebody in the Discord chat brought up Ronbledore, and it gave me life.
I know. Yeah.
Mia. Or Maya. Did I say it right? But anyways.
I'm going to read from the chapter now.
Sorry to do all that.
Because she's like, hold on, what did I write?
Sorry. I threw everyone off.
Yeah, you did. So basically, like, Hermione's come in, and she's like, Harry, you're prefect. And he's like, not me, it's Ron. And she's like, Ron? Said Hermione, her jaw dropping. But are you sure? I mean, she turned red as Ron looked around at her with a defiant expression on his face. It's my name on the letter, he said. Ooh. I said, Hermione, looking thoroughly bewildered. Well done, Ron. That's really unexpected, said George, nodding. No, said Hermione, blushing harder than ever. No, it's not. Ron's done loads of, he's really, and then basically that's when Mrs. Weasley comes in. But, like, I don't know. I think people underestimate Ron. It's just what I think.
You've said that 1,000 times. Opinion. We know this.
Yeah. I get fired up when people be mean to my Ron. Anyway, so Molly comes in with clean clothes for the boys to put away, and she's talking about how Ginny said the book list has come. She wants them to give like she wants them to give her their lists so she can go and buy their supplies. And
What a
she's
good
like to
mom.
Ron, I'm going to get you some new pajamas because his are 6 inches too short. And so she's like, what color do you want? And George says, oh, you should get him red and gold to match his badge. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? And Fred repeats his badge, his new shiny Prefect's badge. And she's like, what? But Ron, you're not? And he's like, yup. Anyway, so she shows his badge. Yup. He shows him her badge, and she lets out a shriek. She's so excited and proud, to say the least. She can't wait to let Arthur know, and this is the first step to becoming head boy like Bill and Percy. Even though, isn't James Potter head boy, and he was never prefect?
Yeah.
So she asks him what he wants. They got Percy an owl, but Ron already has one. And then she's like, dress robes? And Fred's like, we already got him some. And then they're like, we should have waited. We could have kept that money. Basically, is what they're kind of thinking. So Ron then asks for a new broomstick. And Molly's face falls a little bit because, that's expensive. And he's like, I know they're expensive. He's like, you don't have to get a really good one. He just wants a new one. And so she's like, all right, well, I better leave now if I have to get all these things off the list and, a new broomstick. Yeah.
She went shopping by herself for all this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Those letters
She
came
has,
so
like,
late.
Hermione bags for all these things.
I'm sure there's also, like, a spell that you can make stuff be, like, weightless.
Yeah, probably. Or smaller, like shrink it.
Or can you be like UPSO and it goes to your house?
UPSO.
Well, no, they're leaving the next day. They gotta have their stuff.
Same day delivery, bro.
Yeah, Amazon Prime now.
Oh my gosh.
Wizard
Amazon Prime was
now.
not a thing then.
Wizard Prime?
What?
Wiz Prime now.
But I wonder, like, she's probably, like, thinking, like, oh, I can get away from people for, like, a moment and have, like, some quiet time. And then I'm gonna read from the chapter again. So Fred and George, they're looking at each other, and Fred says, if you don't mind if we don't kiss you, do you, Ron? Said Fred in a falsely anxious voice. We could curtsy if you like, said George. Oh, shut up, said Ron, scowling at them. Or what, said Fred, with an evil grin spreading across his face. Going to put us in detention? I'd love to see him try, sniggered George. He could if you don't watch out, said Hermione angrily, at which Fred and George burst out laughing, and Ron muttered, drop it, Hermione. We're going to have to watch our step, George, said Fred, pretending to tremble with these two on our case. Yeah, it looks like our law-breaking days are finally over, said George, shaking his head. And then they left. And even Hermione's like, don't pay attention to them. They're just jealous. And I was like, I don't really think they are, because they've always said that only prats make prefects. And then he says he's going to go ask his mom for a clean sweep. It's no Nimbus, but it's still a good broom. And then I'm not going to read too much, because I think the next part of this, he really sees his broom. But he's going to get the queen. Nope.
Yes, queen
The queen
sweep.
of the clean sweeps.
The Clean Sweep 11. And it's a broomstick that's produced by the Clean Sweep Broom Company in or before 1995.
From the Royal
it's made
Order
from
of the
Spanish
Queen
oak.
herself.
It's the Clean Sweep.
This is the broom for you.
So it's made from Spanish oak. The broom came equipped with an anti-jinx varnish and a built-in vibration control feature. It could accelerate from 0 to 70 miles per hour in 10 seconds. That's real fast.
That is fast.
That's broom.
And think that there's faster out there.
But also, like, I want to go back to prefects for a second. So, like, we know, and if you don't know, like, they're actual things, like, not things, but in, like, British schools, they have them. And they're usually a senior student that's authorized to enforce discipline. And then in Harry Potter world, it's basically the same thing. And it says it's a student who has been given extra authority and responsibilities by the head of house and headmaster. 1 male and 1 female are chosen from each house in their 5th year to act as prefects. They would continue to be prefects in their 6th and 7th years until they leave school. Yeah, so thus there are approximately six prefects per house and 24 prefects in the whole school at one time. And it says the head boy and head girl may be chosen from among these numbers and may not be replaced. However, the head boy or girl does not have to be a prefect. And then we know Percy was 1, Bill was 1, I don't know if Charlie one or was he just Quidditch captain?
I don't know.
I think he was just Quidditch captain.
Yeah.
Quidditch.
I don't know because Mrs. Weasley says, that's everyone in the family. And then Fred and George are like, what are we, chopped liver?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, next door neighbors.
Oh, next door neighbors, yeah.
Poor twins.
Oh, Molly.
Oh.
She was very excited, you know?
Yeah.
She was very excited.
Honestly, she needed something like this.
She needed a win.
Yeah.
Oh, did she? Did she need Ron, who you think doesn't deserve to be a prefect?
No, she needed this. I'm not saying Ron needed it. Molly needed it.
I think Ron needed it, but whatever.
Well, Ron probably did need it.
So he's left, and now it's just Hermione and Harry alone in the room. And Harry doesn't feel like he can look at Hermione. And she tries to talk to him, and he congratulates her. He's still not looking at her. So she thanks him, and then she asks if she can borrow Hedwig to let her parents know. And she's like, this would be something that they would understand, what a prefect is. So he's like, yeah, go ahead. So he, reading from the book, he leaned over his trunk, laid his robes on the bottom of it, and pretended to be rummaging for something while Hermione crossed to the wardrobe, called Hedwig down. A few moments passed. Harry heard the door close, but remained bent double, listening. The only sounds he could hear were the blank picture on the wall sniggering again, and the waste paper basket in the corner coughing up the owl droppings.
Ew!
But I, had to... Because I was, not going to, put this in there. I'm like, no, I need to read this because this makes me laugh that the waste paper basket is coughing.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So
I would like to hear what you think after you read all of this.
I'm going to talk about it.
Let's go.
Hermione's left, and so now Harry is alone with his thoughts. And he's, completely forgot that prefects were chosen for their 5th year. And he'd been preoccupied with the Dementors coming to have a Dudley and Harry-sized snack, possibly even being expelled. So, he had all of that on his mind. So then, had he remembered, would he have thought that he would have been the prefect? Yeah. So, basically reading from the book for, a long section.
Mm-hmm.
He could not lie to himself. If he had known prefect badges was on its way, he would have expected it to come to him, not Ron. Did he really believe he was better than Ron? No. He might have been better at Quidditch than Ron, but they were pretty equal in their lessons. They had been on a lot of adventures together during their school times, along with Hermione, but not all of the time. They didn't fight Quirrell with me. They didn't take on Riddle and the Basilisk. They didn't get rid of all of those Dementors the night that Sirius escaped. They weren't in the graveyard with me the night that Voldemort returned. And the same feeling of ill usage had overwhelmed him on that night that he had arrived, rose again. I've definitely don't more. What? I think I typed that wrong. Hold on. Oh, I've definitely done more. Harry thought indignantly. Hold on.
Indignantly. You're all right.
Indignantly.
Yes.
I've done more than either of them. But maybe, said the small voice fairly, maybe Dumbledore doesn't choose prefects because they got themselves into a load of dangerous situations. Maybe he chooses them for other reasons. Ron must have something you don't. And so he's kind of, thinking again, and he thinks about what Fred had said about, nobody in their right mind would make Ron a prefect. And then Harry gave a small snort of laughter. A second later, he felt sickened with himself. Ron had not asked Dumbledore to give him the prefect badge. This was not Ron's fault. Was he, Harry, Ron's best friend in the world, going to sulk because he didn't have a badge, laugh with the twins behind Ron's back, ruin this for Ron, when for the first time he had beaten Harry at something? And then he hears Ron coming back up the stairs, and so he kind of tries to put a smile on his face before Ron comes into the room. And I said this entire situation reminds me of Rary.
Oh, we're shipping Rary now.
Oh gosh. Of Ron and Harry when Harry's name comes out of the goblet in the 4th book. And I'm like, it kind of does show a huge difference between Ron and Ron and Harry's I don't know how their emotions and like the way that they're able to deal with things. But at the same time, like, we're seeing what Harry's thinking, so we didn't get to see what Ron was exactly thinking in that moment when he was like not believing Harry, being like, why didn't you tell me to put your name in, yada yada. But I like that it's like kind of a juxtaposition of, you know, we saw how Ron handled the name coming out of the goblet and he didn't handle it well, and their friendship suffered for a while. And now with this, Harry's able to like sit back and think and is like, you know, is this how I want this situation to go? And two, like, he's got the whole thing anyways. Like, Ron didn't have that situation where like his best friend and him got in a fight before the whole goblet thing, but now Harry has all of that to deal with, like, not deal with, but like bring that into his thinking, being like, do I want a repeat of that?
Does anybody know what I'm thinking?
I can't imagine, Tiffany.
Yes, but I don't think that this is Voldemort, personally.
Oh, of course it's not Voldemort. These are Voldemort-like feelings, though.
I think this is completely normal.
This is 15-year-old boy feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's normal, because Voldemort would have also felt this had he been Harry's age and these things happened. But this is just a little bit more selfish than I believe Harry would have been, especially with the way that he's talking to himself in the beginning, before he had that other small voice, which was him.
No, I disagree. I think it's all Harry.
Oh, I completely disagree.
It's fine.
You have to think about the way that he's talking to himself. Voldemort is all about I. Especially, Voldemort also does this when he tells lies. I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that this is the Horcrux speaking for itself. I'm not saying that this is Voldemort speaking through Harry. I'm saying that perhaps some of these feelings could maybe be, they could get bigger. I'm losing the words that I want.
Intensified.
Intensified, thank you. Because he has this other soul inside him that is completely selfish in that way. Everything's about me. I did all these things. I'm the great one here. And then when she says that small voice, to me, that's Harry. That's Harry coming in and saying, no, I'm not going to feel this way. I'm not like this. Which it does, but that could just be conscience wrestling with each other. But in my mind, I would like to think that this is intensified by Horcrux connections.
I just disagree. I think this is just a normal 15-year-old boy. If all the extenuating circumstances
He's not
of
a
that
normal
summer,
15-year-old boy.
I understand that, but I just say, like, if this was, disregard all the things that happened, and he was saying, like, if he had a normal summer and, you know, he didn't see Voldemort coming back, and then the Dementor thing never happened, he would have thought he was going to get this badge. And so he's probably a little bit disappointed that he didn't get it. And I think what he's feeling is completely normal, and all of himself being like, yeah, like, I would have thought that I should get this before Ron, but at the same time, then he's thinking, like, at the same time, like, there's not much that sets me apart besides being good at Quidditch, you know, in those regards, different than Ron. Like, why shouldn't he have been able to get it over me?
I think that I agree that this is all Harry, and it's just him being a normal 15-year-old thinking something that was going to happen and it didn't. And then, of course, you're going to go through your mind and be like, I deserved this. I should have gotten it. Like, regardless of, like, you know, Harry's connection, I think he still would have thought those things, just as Ron thought those things in Goblet of Fire whenever Harry's name came out of the goblet. Like, that was pretty, that was pretty mean of Ron to think those things. But that's a teenager sometimes, you know? So, like, with this, I think that he's just super disappointed that he didn't get it. So he's gonna think these things in his head, like, well, yeah, of course I deserved it. I did all these things. Like, why didn't I get it? When in reality, like, there are a lot more reasons that go behind someone getting something. Like, I can kind of compare this to, like, whenever I was in a choir in high school, you would get, like, ranked based on like, what was it called? It Basically, you would go and, like, you wouldn't know what part you were going to have to sing. You would go in there and they would, like, evaluate you. And then based on your evaluation, you would get a number. And, like, the lower the number, the better you were. So, like, I had a low number. And then the next year I went and I did it and I got a higher number. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what changed? I don't understand. And, like, I thought those things about all the people that were in front of me for a hot second, you know? But then it's like, well, at the end of the day, maybe I didn't know my part as well as I did last year, and on and on. And, like, you kind of take a step back and realize, like, why maybe you didn't get it. But I don't know. I think that this is just normal 15-year-old Harry.
I think, too, Harry, and really a lot of people around Harry, like, they all were thinking, Harry's going to get it. He's the one that, not that he gets everything, but, like, over Ron, he kind of does. So this is, like, the first time that, like, Ron gets something that's did he get it? And then thinking, like, there's nothing that, like, really is, like, he shouldn't not have gotten, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's very normal 15-year-old boy to feel these things.
I really don't know which side of this I'm on at all.
Of course you
don't.
don't.
I really don't. But what I'm going to say...
I've heard the Hufflepuff.
I know. What I'm going to say could go with either side, too. Harry has that layer also of, like, he feels very conflicted about Dumbledore right now. So it's like, well, why didn't Dumbledore pick me? Because he's supposed to be, like...
When, like, in reality, do we even know if Dumbledore actually picks these? It could be McGonagall. Like, we have no idea how a prefect is chosen.
Doesn't
Dumbledore
it say
doesn't
it
know.
said Dumbledore did?
Dumbledore does admit, like, I didn't want to put any more pressure on you.
Oh, okay.
At the end.
Well, whatever.
I'm sure maybe some other people had... I'm sure Heads of House has
Whatever.
influence, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Like, and that could go both ways, too. It's like, is that just Harry reflecting on his personal relationship with Dumbledore? Or is that the piece of Voldemort's soul who obviously would dislike Dumbledore coming in, too? I don't know.
I just think as far as Harry's personality goes, and we can stop because we're getting a little long-winded on this, but, like, I feel like Harry would feel these things, but not as strongly as he does.
I mean, but I don't think he feels them, like, to me, he feels them like a normal 15-year-old boy, because he really doesn't dwell on it that much. Like, he has a conversation in his head.
He feels sickened with himself. That's a pretty strong feeling for him thinking those previous thoughts.
I felt that before.
That lets me feel like those feelings were strong.
But I felt like I've done things like that where, like, in my head, I'd be like, I can't believe I would even think that. Like,
yeah, because your feelings previously were strong. That's why I feel like it's probably
normal.
wasn't his usual. Yeah.
It's not his, like, this doesn't normally happen. You know what I mean? It just, in my head canon, it's not Voldemort and the Horcrux of anything with this situation. That's just me.
Okay.
I'm stuck, guys. I'm stuck.
You can be stuck. None of this is spelled out. It's all what we think.
Peppers and opinions.
Is that it?
That's it.
Do we want to go to... I did a poll on Instagram, too, Tiffany. Do you want to pull that up?
Sure.
All right. Did you both do different questions?
No, I just did. Should Ron
right.
have been made a prefect?
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's
You wanna do yours?
51% yes, 49% no. Like,
Wow.
so split.
So Twitter's is out of 36 votes, 53% no, 47% yes.
Jeez.
Interesting. How many votes does Instagram have? We have 100 votes.
Oh, wow, that's close.
52 for yes, 48 for no.
Wow.
Super close.
So.
It was a coin toss almost.
Yeah.
All right, lightning bolt round.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Carly asks, so in the chat while we were talking, Meg was doing her weekly prophet about the Slytherin common room. They were talking about how the Slytherin common room would be damp and hard to sleep in, and with all the wet, it would probably get smelly in there fast. It was just funny. But Carly asked, is your common room the best for your sleep preference?
Yeah.
Yours is, and so is mine, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we don't really know a whole lot about.
Although Vinny did bring up, so I think he said that he would want, like, Hufflepuff would actually be his better sleeping preference room because, like, you'd smell the food from the kitchens all the time. Being in Hufflepuff that close to the kitchens would probably be damaging to my health.
Think freshman year in college.
Exactly.
We
I
were
know.
right in the cafeteria. I
know.
gained like 15 pounds that year. That
Freshman
was terrible.
15 is real.
I imagine the
lost my-
Ravenclaw common room would be drafty because it's up in the tower. I don't know why. Like, I feel like it would be like you have a fan on.
I literally was thinking to myself, I'm like, let's be honest, I'm not a good sleeper, so I'm
True.
like, what's my ideal
Just being asleep.
situation?
No, I like to be
Yeah.
cozy and warm, so mine fits.
If you like to be cozy and warm, you should come to the sunshiny common room.
Of Hufflepuff.
Well, I need it dark. Jeez, I don't
I
need
know.
the sunshine
I
on my
know.
face.
Yeah, so maybe Gryffindor might have an edge for me because I cannot sleep if there's lights on.
Yeah, let's have it dark.
Well, I mean, at nighttime it would be dark.
Well, what the other night it was nighttime, but it snowed so much, and the street lights from outside were on the snow, so it was light
Like
in our
blasting
room,
you.
and it was
True.
annoying.
True.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hit me with another one.
Allie said, "Would you want to be a prefect?"
No.
I don't think I would want to be either.
I probably would have been a prefect.
I
I
could
was always
see.
doing stuff like that in school.
I could see.
No.
I don't know. Maybe I'd be offered a prefect position,
You probably would have been.
but I don't know if I'd want it. Carissa asked, "How would you react if your best friends were chosen as prefects over you?"
I would pat him on the back and say,
I'd
have
be
at it.
happy and be like, all right, let me do whatever I want.
I'd be like, "Just get me into that bathroom once in a while, and we cool."
Yep.
I
take a
probably would have
bathroom.
been like a Harry and Ron mixed together. Like, I'd be happy for them, but if I had expected it, I would have been like not super pleased. Or probably would have been a little mean because that's how I was when I was in high school.
Sarah, we
Just
all
being
grow. Kelly said, "Or would you rather be a Quidditch captain?"
Nope.
Quidditch.
No.
I would be a terrible Quidditch captain.
I
I'd be
would want to
Quidditch
be
for sure.
president of the frog
Yeah, all
choir.
But every club that I was in, I was like on like either like the vice president or like I was the vice president of both business club and peace and justice. And then when I was in hair school, I was the I don't remember if it was called student council. It might have been, but I was the president of that.
Kyra asked, "What would be the best thing about being a prefect?" The bathroom.
Bathroom.
Yeah, the bathroom.
Pine fresh me up.
Fresh me up.
I think that I would like being able to like deduct points and things from students or like not like if they're doing something like punish them.
You're awful.
I'd get a lot of joy out of it.
Also awful.
Power trip.
A little bit.
Kelly asked, "How long do you think it took Lucius to come up with Patronus Potter?"
All since the event happened. He knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, "Stag Potter? No. That's not good enough."
No.
Rudolph? No.
Narration makes the world go round.
Rudolph.
Kelly asks, "Regular Captain Crunch or Captain Crunch with berries?"
Berries.
Berries.
Peanut butter
I don't
Captain
remember
Crunch.
But
It
also
tastes like.
none at all because I like having my mouth not torn apart by hard cereal.
You know what, though?
What's your favorite cereal?
Raisin
Rice
Bran
Krispies.
Crunch.
Wait. One at a time?
I said Rice
Go.
Krispies.
Mine is Raisin Bran Crunch.
Okay.
I like something called Basic Four. It's got like slivers of almonds and then like craisins and some other things.
Ooh, also
I
honey bunches of
thoroughly
oats,
enjoy-
honey roasted.
I like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and that's typically the only cereal I'll eat, which is never, but
I when I was pregnant, I craved Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, I like Cocoa Pebbles.
Cocoa Pebbles. I haven't had those in a long time. You know what I used to love to eat? Reese's Pieces cereal.
Reese Puffs?
Yeah, Reese Puffs.
Those are good.
And I don't even like peanut butter and chocolate.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's weird for you.
It's a pretty
I have
fake
another
peanut butter and
question that has
chocolate.
nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it has to do with food, and we were talking about it yesterday. If you walked into an ice cream shop, relatively normal ice cream flavor, is there a flavor that you would not like, and that was the only one they had left, and you would walk out and not get ice cream, and you're like craving ice cream? Like, I would not eat like a Rocky Road or Moose Tracks or like a peanut butter, like chocolate peanut butter cup. Wouldn't eat any of that.
Mine would be like, I like mint chocolate chip, but I don't like candy cane ice cream. I don't like that severe.
Like a peppermint?
Yeah, no kind of peppermint.
I said banana because I don't like any banana things.
Get out!
I also agree with Tiffany. I don't like banana flavored anything.
I don't know if there would be a flavor I wouldn't eat. Maybe like, I don't love things with pieces of candy in it. So like whenever you order like a McFlurry with like M&Ms or something like that, like get out of here. That's gross. I hate any like chocolatey candy in ice cream because it just like it gets hard and then the chocolate isn't creamy and you don't even taste it really, and I just am not a fan. What?
Do you know what today is?
I know Honey Hut opens in Brecksville. We're going.
Yes!
Woo, 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 woo. Only Brecksville, Tiffany. Only Brecksville. But we're going.
It doesn't.
So.
I have a car.
Yep.
The other one opens March 17th.
Yep. St. Patrick's Day always is the one by us.
I have a list of when all of them open, and we want to hit them all.
Yeah, we're going to go to all of them.
All right, give me another one.
So, Maui Potter asks, do you think rather than a Horcrux... Oh man, I typed this wrong. Can you find this one in there for me? And I'll move on, because I just typed it really fast.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Sorry, we'll go to that one in a minute. Kelly asked, do you think that there was any way that Dumbledore could have let Sirius do something?
Yeah.
I do too.
In my opinion.
I
Outside?
do too.
I think they were just being extra cautious.
Disguises, man.
I don't know.
If
Yeah, I mean, he could have polyjuiced out and done whatever, and someone could have stayed back just so, like, no mistakes had been made. Like, yeah, there's ways.
Or even, like, let him walk, like, polyjuice him and, like, let him literally just, like, walk around the block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Like, yeah, as Arthur or somebody, you know what I mean?
Or a random muggle. Yeah. I just think, to me, like, that's more, I don't know. It just sucks. And it is what it is. But at the same time, like, we can talk about, like, you know, he should have done this and they should have done this and whatever. But, like, I think that if anything would have been different, like, the ending would have changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
like,
everything in these
they all
books.
had to die.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. And
Go, Kate.
So Meg found it for me. Maui Potter asked, do you think, rather than the Horcrux, Voldy can already kind of read Harry's thoughts, and the thought of talking to Dumbledore either scares him or makes him angry? I think maybe that's in relation to why the scar burns.
Say that again?
Do you think rather than the Horcrux, Voldemort can already kind of read Harry's thoughts, and the thought of talking to Dumbledore either scares him or makes him angry? I think that connection is literally only there because of the Horcrux.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like, Voldemort would not be able to read his thoughts if the Horcrux wasn't in place.
Unless they were, like, you know, literally, like, standing in front of each other.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the only other way.
Using, like, legitimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allie
I
said...
think that.
Sorry.
Well, hold on. I think that Voldemort, gets to know Harry, not perfectly, but he can maybe, like, as much as you can guess what someone would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Need to know all about you.
Allie asked, which member of the Order would you want to live with?
Remus.
Remus!
And I'd want to date him.
Remus!
I just want to live with the Weasleys, man.
Yeah, that'd be cool, too.
I would live with Sirius. I would break the rules and let him out.
You'd let him out. You'd let him out on a leash.
Just transfigure him into a different kind of dog.
I'd take him for walks.
I would scratch behind his ear. Give him all kind of pets. Pets and treats.
This one's super sad. Kelly asked, did Sirius know that Lily didn't have to die?
Probably not.
Well, but, like, had she not died, that would have also caused issues.
Yeah, but that's not what the question is.
I mean, I know. So, I mean, like, but technically, she did have to die.
I don't think so. I think the people who were only privy to Snape's feelings about Lily was Voldemort-ish, for as much as he could understand, Snape, Dumbledore, and then Harry in the end.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think anybody else knew. Like, they knew he was a double agent, but they didn't know why necessarily.
Yeah. Emily asks, if you are chosen for a prefect, can you turn it down?
Probably.
Sure.
I mean, you could say no to things.
Yeah, I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
And last one, Maui Potter asks, how do you think Ron would have reacted of Harry getting prefect? Obviously,
I think he would. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Obviously, he would be upset knowing Ron, but do we think it could have created something similar to last year, or do you think he has grown?
No, I think he's grown. I think he would have been jealous, but he would have been like, "Yeah, man, you deserve it, whatever."
Like, I think too, Ron was thinking, like, Harry was gonna get it, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he never
Yeah.
thought that he would have gotten it.
I
why he
think
was so
Ron
shocked.
probably already
Yes.
worked out those feelings and was expecting Harry to get it.
Yeah, because it was probably on his mind since it was prevalent within his family, and that's not really something Harry thinks about.
I wondered too, like, if Ron was probably thinking, like, yeah, it would have been really, like, cool. It'd be really cool to, like, be a prefect, but, like, I know I'm not gonna get it. So he already resigned himself to the fact that, like, he's not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
And
makes
dude,
sense.
I get that. I totally, like, I could feel that in my bones.
And you feel it in your fingers and your
I
toes too.
I do. Ron is all around me.
Oh my god.
I am Ron.
I mean, let's be honest. We all know I am Ron. Out of the three of them,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So out of the three of them, Sarah, I think we all agree, is Ron. Who is Megan?
Hermione.
Draco. No, I
Tiffany's
kinda think
Harry.
she's a little Harry.
I'm Harry.
I think Tiffany's Harry. You think
I
I'm
think-
Harry?
A little bit. More so than Hermione, I would say.
I don't feel like I align with any of them.
I think you're Harry, Megan. Yeah, I see this.
Am I reckless?
Because honestly, like, I feel like
Am I possessed?
No,
I'm a mix
no,
of
but
Ron
you're
and
very,
Hermione.
like, I'm in your face. I'm gonna do this. What? Snake.
Mm.
Who is Katie?
I don't fit with
She's
any of
Cedric.
them. Cedric.
Katie's
I think
Katie.
he's a Hufflepuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you,
can't
Vinny.
put you as a trio. I feel
You're
like,
like Neville.
I'll
Katie's
take
like a
Neville.
mix.
Katie
I feel
is
like
a
you're a
Neville.
Yeah.
She has a glow up.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're hotter now than you were when I met you.
Oh, thanks.
And I mean that in the best way.
No, that's good. Because that's like
Yeah, you
saying I
definitely
love
have
you
a
more
better
now
haircut.
than when I met you.
Right.
See, that's how you should have phrased it there, Meg. Thanks, Tiff. Thanks for saving my wife for her.
That's what I meant.
Uh-huh, sure.
That's like in The Office when Michael talks about Pam. He's like, you should have seen her when she started.
Oh my god.
No, but Sarah, who do you think I am?
I would say you're kind of a mix between, like, Harry. Oh, no, you're kind of. I'd say you're a mix between Harry and Hermione. And I feel like
Yeah.
I'm a mix between Ron and Hermione.
I agree.
I feel like
I feel
I'm a
very
mix between
Harry
Harry and Hermione. We've all got a little Hermione
No,
in us.
I think you're a mix between Ron and Ron and Harry.
Ron?
Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she does Hermione things. It's
What
strange.
does she do that's Hermione? Tell me.
You, man.
Spew.
What?
Spew.
Yeah.
You.
Her activism.
Um,
You spew just like Hermione.
That's why I feel like I resonate more with Hermione because of her, like, social justice thing.
I feel like Megan is a mix of Nagini and
Nagini in Fantastic
Creature.
Beasts or Nagini in Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
She's a mix between Draco, Lucius,
Nagini and Lucius.
Bellatrix. Throw some crazy.
Throw some snakes in there.
Some snakes.
Megan owns her snake.
Yeah, I do.
She paid full price.
Nuh-uh, got it on discount.
Yeah, you would never pay full price for that. Are you crazy? I love you, Megan.
I love you too.
Is that tall?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
W just reminded me that my birthday is coming up. Ugh.
No. All right.
Like,
Read
your
me
birthday's next month. Is it? I didn't know.
Read this fan story, yo.
Fan story.
It's not the order of things, is it? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
All right. I've only been doing this for 100 and however many episodes.
Yep.
NBD.
Go. Do it. Do it. Do it.
This week's fan story comes from Maggie Danahy. Dear Megan, Katie, Tiffany, and Sarah, my name is Maggie, and I'm 12 years old. I love your podcast and am a new patron. I begged my parents to get it for me so I can listen to the Felix Files. I'm so excited to binge them all. I started the podcast in August and have listened every week since then. My Potter story starts off pretty much the same as everyone else's. I was recommended the series since, like, 2nd grade and refused to read them, thinking that they were boring and stupid. I'm a dancer, and although I just switched studios, my favorite memory from my old studio was this. I was in the junior company at my old dance school, and for the spring concert last spring, my teacher announced that we would be doing a Harry Potter dance. I was like, cool, but didn't think much of it. We started practice in March, and for the first few weeks, I just did the dance, but all my friends kept making references and talking about Harry Potter. So within the next few days, after one of the first rehearsals, we had a snow day. I rented the first movie and watched it. I was immediately hooked. I rented Chamber right after that and watched that too. I forced myself not to watch the third and read the books. The next day, I marched into my classroom and grabbed the Sorcerer's Stone book and then plowed through the first 2 books and read Prisoners so fast and watched the movie. I did my generation's method of reading the book and then watching the movie and repeating that till the end. I read the series so fast and became a huge Potterhead. My favorite book would have to be Half-Blood Prince or Deathly Hallows, and my favorite movie would have to be The Last 3. I am so excited to dissect, cry, smile, and laugh through the series with you guys. Your podcast brings me so much joy, and I love listening. I recently went through a hard time with bullying at school, and social media made everything so much worse, and I ended up switching to a Catholic school, which made my life so much brighter. Your podcast has gotten me through dark times and still makes me smile through the light ones. I'm a proud Gryffindor, shout out to Tiff, and my favorite character is Hermione. Thank you for all the hard work you guys put in and all you do. And to everyone listening, even light can be found in the darkest of times if only one remembers to turn on the light. Albus Dumbledore. Lots of love, Maggie.
May I
That's
say,
so
what
sweet.
a well-written 12-year-old.
No kidding!
I know. I was thinking the same
Lovely
thing.
to read. I love this story, and I love what Maggie said about her generation and the way that they read these.
Yeah,
Yes.
how that's like their thing.
Yeah.
Yes! I think that's awesome, because we didn't have that.
Yeah.
We had, we got to go through that speculation and whatever, so it's like 2 different generations of Potterheads have 2 different ways of doing things, which is pretty cool in my opinion.
Agreed.
Also, like, that's some restraint to be like, no, I have to read the books now and then I will
I
watch the
know.
movie.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sorry that you, as I know a lot of us have experienced too, that you're on the other side of bullying, but I'm glad that you've overcome it and you're here and you find solace in these books just like we do, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And you found your space. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now I got to tell you guys where to find us on social media if you don't already know. Which
133 episodes in.
maybe you don't.
You never know.
So you can find us on Facebook at Swish and Flick Podcast, and we also have a Facebook group called Swish and Flick Podcast Group. We're on Instagram at Swish Flick Cast and Twitter at Swish Flick Cast, and we also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/SwishFlickCast, and we have all different levels for you to choose from, depending on the level that you choose, depends on what you get through Patreon. You can get our Felix Files episodes, you can get welcome packets, you can get our Phoenix Hangouts, you can get our Phoenix Plus boxes. So, if you would be so inclined, that would be great. That is what allows us to keep this podcast going and to do meetups, to meet more of you and hang out and do conventions and all of that kind of stuff. So,
And make these lovely donations.
yes, and make donations every month. And just, if you guys didn't catch on, the more number of patrons we have, the higher donation we can make every month. So even if you're just a, $2 Niffler patron,
A Niffler!
$1
You're still
from,
helping. Yeah.
$1 from your monthly $2 donation gets donated to an organization. And once the 4 of us go through our choices, then we're going to kind of do, like, polls to have you guys choose where the money will go every month. So unless, like, something happens where we feel inclined that, like, you know, this needs to go here this month or whatever. But,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we're going to have you guys help drive where the donations go.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about me.
No.
I am on Twitter at @tiffswish_flick. I like to have a lot of fun on there, talking about Potter and video games and Star Wars and all those kinds of things. But so I wanted to talk about, I've made a new dinner recipe. So I've been finding healthy, either crock pot or Instapot, which are almost the same thing as far as how I use them, recipes every week. And so this week I'm trying out this chicken, green bean, potato recipe.
Ooh.
And it's got like fresh lemon juice and oregano, onion powder, salt and pepper, garlic. I put in extra garlic because I like garlic.
Garlic
So I'm
is life.
excited. I'm excited to try that out. And so far, I think my favorite has been like this Parmesan chicken that I made. And literally, so Marty is such a good cook. It's kind of intimidating for me to make anything. And he was eating it and he went and got a second helping and he goes, "Tiffany, this is fantastic." And I almost cried. I was like, it made me feel so good about myself. I was like, "Thank you, Marty."
That's so cute.
But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Trying not to be sick. Goodness, it's tough right now, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm really excited for spring break to roll around, and I'm closer. And I'm getting my hair done, and I can't wait because I need it so bad. And that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
You can follow me and Katie at the Petrus Family on Instagram and Twitter. I personally am getting really invested in American politics, and sometimes I need to remind myself to slow your roll and not feel anxious or frustrated about things. So I'm kind of trying to work on that, but we're also planning on volunteering a lot for the upcoming election, so that's going to take up a lot of our free time, but I'm excited about it.
That's cool.
And also our reading club has a new prompt for March, which is a book with a nature word in the title.
Okay.
And I might potentially be expanding the definition of a nature word with this book, but I'm going to read
Like a snake.
You said it, not me.
But I'm going to read a book by Nicola Yoon, who wrote the book Everything, Everything that I really love. And
If it's what I'm thinking of, it totally aligns.
it's called The Sun is Also a Star.
That's nature.
Is it?
How is that
No,
not
they
nature?
They turned it into a movie.
This is like Meg going when we're talking about Quidditch. I'm gonna
yeah.
like change the subject and talk about something not related, and it was about Quidditch.
Whatever.
It was all about Quidditch.
Well, I don't know. Like, is sun and stars nature? That's like outer
Yes.
space, isn't it?
But
Is
without
Shrek
the sun, you
Scottish?
can't have nature,
Okay.
like part of it. You know,
Did you just say Shrek Scottish?
Yes, Sarah. What did you say?
I was-
I said like you can't have like, you know, if you think about how plants breathe,
True.
they literally need the sun.
That's
Why are
true.
you pushing on
Most
your
of them.
nose?
I don't know. 'Cause my hand is
Play me-
there.
Play me a song. That's why
I haven't
love
done it
you.
for Alana in a long time.
What?
Oh my god.
Guess what you're doing next Friday?
I'm
So,
seeing
yeah.
her today.
So
That's true.
I'm gonna read The Sun is Also a Star. Katie, I don't know. Did you decide you're reading that too?
I have not decided
She
it.
doesn't know yet. You gotta know it's
okay.
March 1st.
I know. I'll pick one today.
Yeah, what are you
Um,
doing, Katie? What are you up to?
I've been sick like constantly, and I cannot wait to stop being sick.
Well,
think
February's over, so we're, heading
February
towards the
is
light
always
here.
the longest month for me.
February?
Yeah.
It always feels
January.
long.
Oh,
is
so
so
I
long.
feel like because I was talking to Regina and Kelly, and they're like, because I was like, God, it's been forever since I've seen you. They're like, we literally saw you last month. I felt like January was 80 years and February was 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Really?
February has just felt long because February is never kind to me immune system wise. If I choose to be sick, then not that I chose to be, but you know what I'm saying.
You could choose.
Yeah.
My flu shots worked so far. I am excited because I've been stuck in the house with this one and I didn't get anything.
Please stay healthy. And then shout out to anyone that's feeling overwhelmed with household life because since I've been sick, since I've been sick, like just everything gets on the back burner, you know. And today I did dishes and I feel good about that. So small victories.
Yeah. Also, somebody asked in Discord, are you guys going to help get people registered to vote? And the answer to your question is yes, 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 yes. Please.
Go frequent a high school, man.
Register to vote. And if you don't know how to, please direct message me and I will tell you how. Thank you.
Yeah. Vote.
Sa.
Vote. I'm just trying to live. School is school. I have 1 week left until my spring break, and I also took the week off of work, and I'm so looking forward to it, and I already am feeling like it's already over. I'm just trying to survive. I too have been ill, but like finally feeling all right for the last couple of weeks-ish. I'm literally just like, I've gone through my clothes. I have several bags to donate. Just trying to get my life in order and do school and relax and, you know, trying not to be overwhelmed. And I'm ready to travel and get away for a little bit at the end of this month and then in April. And I'm ready to take a breath.
Yeah.
I did the taxes. I'm glad that is partially done.
You rule.
Yeah.
And then on to my own personal taxes, which I'll be great.
We all gotta do that soon. We all gotta do that.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to survive day to day.
Yep.
That's all.
Before we wrap this up, I wanted to give a shout out to a fellow Potter podcaster from Potterless. Shoobs got married last night.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Congrats to Mike.
He got
And
married.
we know he doesn't listen, but hey,
he and his wife looked super, super cute.
They did.
Like, her dress, stunning. Just stunning.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, is that all for the great good?
Oh boy.
Every time I say that, I cringe. All right. So until next time, friends, come back for the second half of the chapter, The Woes of Mrs. Weasley. That concludes this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and don't let the muggles get you down.
amazing! Just my voice! I just had to find this section. My back is killing me sitting like this.
Read fast, then.
Okay,
Here we
I
go.
am
Here we go
recording.
again.
Oh yeah, you do need that though.
What? Why'd you say to wait?
No, my brain's not alive right now.
I'm not sleeping.
Guys,
My mind is alive.
I finally watched Frozen 2.
Oh, I can't do this all day.
Did you like it?
Yeah. I don't know if I like it better than the first one, but I really liked it.
I like it better than the first one.